Hi, this is Dovid Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. And whether you watch it with our friends over Eternity Time or wherever you listen or watch your podcast, we are so happy that you've decided to take out time to spend it with us. It is such a schus. I haven't said this in a while, and I want you to know I do not take for granted the fact that so many people take out time from their busy schedules to listen to anything that I have to say. It is such a schus. I know so many people who would give anything to be able to have the opportunity that I have to be able to speak to so many of you. And it's a schus. It's such a schus that I'm honored and touched by the people who take out time to watch or listen to this podcast. And Hashem should give you chizuk. We should have good things. And we are sponsored this week, anonymously. Li'iloi Nishmas Reb Chaim Zanvil ben Moshe and L'schus Chaya Sora Bas Fega Rachel. And an appreciation to Rabbi Orlofsky for all the simcha and true Torah flavor that you exude. I am just exuding that taste of Torah, that flavor. Truly a Kiddush Hashem. I hope so. I really hope so. That's what we're trying to do. I really try to do this to be B'Kadesh Shemaim. Yeah, it's. I don't know if I ever told you why I started doing this. There was a number of motivations. But one of them is a former Talmud of mine who gave me Mussar and said, you don't have shiurim out there for the general public. I said, well, when somebody hires me to speak and they film it, they put it, up on Torah Time or anything like that. But he says, no, you should sit down and just do this for people without any other consideration. And that was really the impetus to start the podcast. And it's really in his chus. I can mention his name. It's a Talmud and a friend, Meir Strobel. He's in Baltimore, and this all the many people who gain from this, it's really in his chus. Please keep it up. You inspire and give real chizuk to thousands of people on a weekly basis. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu grant you the strength and yeshiva das to continue our avodas hakodesh unto 120. Amen. One complaint: I was on a plane recently listening to one of your classes on my headphones. It was so hysterical that it caused me to start laughing out loud. Not cool. Well, you got off easy because Rabbi Label Sharfman, who was one of the pioneers in women's education, told me that he used to jog listening to my shiurim, and one time he laughed so hard that he fell down, literally fell down on the street. Somebody else told me they were listening to it and they were laughing so hard they almost got into a car accident. So he says, really, your recording should come with warning labels. This is true. But it is always endearing to see people listening on headphones. You just see somebody like laughing and no one knows why. And it's because we're all in this together and I am there with you. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will try not to be so funny. What can I do? It's one of my curses that I carry. Yeah. I was once working someplace, and one of the co-workers was remarkably unpleasant to me, more so than one would expect under normal circumstances. Yeah. And I really tried to reach out to him. And finally, he says, "You know why all the other people in this organization hate you?" I didn't know that they did hate me, but I said, "Why?" He says, "Because you're funny. How do you think when we're out there working with the kids and they say, 'Why aren't you funny like Orlofsky?'" And I looked at him with as much seriousness as I could muster and say, "I'll try not to be so funny." So I do apologize for those of you who have suffered accidents from laughing out loud. Yeah, gosh. Okay. I hear a sad story. Sure you do. I used to give a shiur years ago when there used to be public shiurim and stuff in Har Nof every other Motzi Shabbos. And at one point we had a lot of people coming, a lot of people. And I was approached more than once by somebody who said to me, "Yeah, why do you give this shir? You're such a big Talmid Chacham, such a big Talmid Chacham." There are plenty of people who give a better shir than this. I could give a better shir than this. More than one person said this to me. Shame sich nicht. They said, I should be giving that shir. So I said, no, people come because I'm funny. Oh, you mean you tell jokes? You like a clown? Like you do like jokes? Okay, so I don't know how to tell jokes. I teach direct. Oh, I didn't realize it was a comedy show. Okay, now I feel better. This happened to me a few times. So somebody was there once and they were horrified on my behalf. They were like, well, why would you let anyone talk to you that way? I said, do you understand what a nebuch you have to be if you go over to somebody and say, I should have your share? Why don't you start a share? Because nobody will come. That's why. Nobody wants to listen to you. So if I say to them, well, it's because my Torah is so much sweeter and more interesting than anything you have to say, what am I going to do? Make the guy feel bad? So I tell the guy, well, I told you. Oh, okay, you're a joker, you're a jokester, you're a clown. You feel better now? So what'd you do? You pushed me down and felt better about yourself. You feel good now? Good. That's all I want. I want you to walk away happy. Don't worry about my covet. I left the tzavah. I chazed over my family all the time. We fight about it constantly. And I said, I don't want any hespedim when I go. Because I've been masbid so many times already in my life. You know how many times I've been introduced and the introductions are so over the top. Sometimes I get up, I don't know what to say. I say, I am so impressed with myself now that I just wish that I could be you. So I could be sitting in the audience listening to me. I said, make a shloshim, put me in the ground as quickly as you can, and then make a shloshim, let everyone sit down, have coffee and cake, and let everyone talk as much as they want about me. I won't be there. But by the Levi, you're still there. You have to listen, I said, I don't need any more spadim. So someone says, well, somebody has to speak. I said, I'll record something. Hi, everybody. I guess if you're here, I'm not. Anyway, I just wanted to say a few final words about myself. First, I want to check to see who didn't come because I'm going to come back and haunt you. Just look around. I might even do it. It might be something special. Anyway, wow, we really deteriorated quickly this week, didn't we? Anyway, in the last podcast, we said that we would like to speak certainly until Shavuos, and after that, we will see. But certainly Shavuos, I would like to, during these weeks, we learn Pirkei Avos. Like I say, there is a minute to learn it the whole summer, so I might keep going. But I just want to pick out like one idea. So I spoke something from Perek Aleph last time. So now I'll take something from Perek Beis. Right at the beginning. Istakel b'shloshet dvarim v'yato bo lidei avera. Yeah, look at three things and you won't come to an avera. Da mala mimcha. Know what is above you. Ayin roya v'oizin shema'as v'kol ma'asecha v'sefer nichtavim. An eye that sees and an ear that hears, and everything that you do is written in a book. We said that during the Tokef. Yeah, they open up the sefer, and everything you've ever done or said is inside of that book. The people make mistakes in life, and one of the reasons people make mistakes in life is because they don't believe that it makes any difference. Nobody's listening. Hi, today there are cameras everywhere. They can follow you. Yeah, they can go from one security camera to the next, and see where you are. That's unless you're really important. Then they can just follow you with satellites. They have satellites that can zoom in and read a license plate from outer space. I saw this clip. I don't like to get political because, invariably you'll end up upsetting somebody. I don't want to get political, but but what can I tell you? You just see things sometimes, and you just have to learn a Musa Haskell. Everything is well a Musa Haskell. The Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, has this tendency to laugh at inappropriate times in a really wild way. Like really scary. Anyway, the first time they impeached Donald Trump, because they did it twice, of course, but the first time they impeached him, they just showed a series of clips of every Democrat getting up going, "This is a very serious and solemn occasion. We're not taking this lightly. This is serious and solemn." Everybody used the same word, serious and solemn. And then they cut to the people in the media. "This is obviously a serious and solemn occasion." Everybody's saying serious and solemn. So they have this clip where they're talking to, I don't know if it was McConnell or who it was, and Kamala Harris is behind him doing her silly laugh. Like, he turns around to her and says, "We're on camera." And she right away turns it off. And she looks at the camera and goes, "This is a very serious and solemn occasion." Do you know how many careers have been ended because people didn't realize that the mic was still on? Back in the age of radio, there was a character called Uncle Don. He was a children's show. Yeah, he used to speak in rhyme and tell music. And it was like one of those, Anyway, the show finishes, but the mic was still on. He says, and so he's doing this little voice. He goes, "Oh, and you don't want to have a bad face? What if your face would freeze that way? No, you want you." When it's all done, you hear this voice. "Are we off? Good. That'll hold the little till next time." They realized it was a camera. They didn't know that it was still being recorded. People don't realize that. Famously, President Reagan was making his weekly address to America. He was testing out the mic. And he says, "Well, Russia, even as we speak, the United States is sending bombers over to Russia to flatten your country." What do you mean the mic is on? There have been moments like this because we don't really believe that we're being watched all the time. Yeah, this guy runs a stop sign, a cop pulls him over. He says, "Didn't you see the stop sign?" He says, "Yeah, but I didn't see you." Because we think we're not being watched. We don't think there aren't consequences. The person came out from the supermarket, so their car was hit. There was a note on the windshield that said, "I was backing up and I hit your car. There are people watching. They think I'm writing down my name and phone number. I'm not." Because we don't really believe anyone's watching. Okay, I've said this many times. I had a Rebbe who once said that every person has a purpose in this world. Yours is to be a bad example, and I've always tried to live up to that. Yeah. I was at a bar mitzvah at the Kais. I was just about to say Kriya Shema, and the video guy came and filmed right on me. Did I say a Shema that rocked the heavens? Shema Yisrael, and Mamish. I took my hand away, the camera was gone. And my first thought was, wasted a perfectly good Shema. Those who are Rabbi Orlofsky show aficionados have noticed that every now and then the recording is edited. Like slight vary in when speaking. But right? You're able to tell if you have an eye for these things. So someone says, "Well, we should take the, maybe you should make a blooper reel of all the outtakes. What do you think is in the outtakes? You think it's something that I had enough sense to realize I shouldn't say? Obviously not. If you've been listening, you know. What is it for? I'll tell you what he takes out. Michael, the producer, really the person who makes the Rabbi Orlofsky show happen. I remember somebody wrote once, was complaining, oh, there hasn't been a video in a while. I said, my staff is one person, Mikhail, and he has a job, and he learns, and he has a life, and out of the goodness of his heart, he does this as a gift to Klal Yisrael. Let's not have any complaints, and he does such a professional thing. Do you ever watch the video? You have to go, if you haven't seen it, the podcast with the video of the Rabbi Orlofsky theme song. He ran around and got people to play, and he videoed it, and he spliced together. He made a music video out of it. So what does he take out? He takes out things like, I remember I was talking to somebody. What was the guy that I was doing? Oh, okay, fine. So I was talking to, because you don't have to watch that. You don't have to watch Rabbi Orlofsky slowly losing it. Or the upstairs neighbors are dragging the chairs across, or outside one of those trucks go by that we have in Yerushalayim. There's an old minhag in Yerushalayim that every sound system has to be left over from the 1920s. What? If you ever got to a chazan, that's the same thing. What did he say? It's all part of we are suspicious of technology. So we're always suspicious, So there might be a soundtrack going by, so they take it out, But when Rush Limbaugh passed away, so they pulled out, the people who didn't like him. They pulled out a bunch of quotes that he had said. And someone pointed out, he was on the radio for 3 hours, for 5 days a week, for 30 years. How many people can have that body of material and not say something silly or say something that comes out wrong? Or, listen, there's no question that if somebody wanted to take me down, they could, go through all of my recordings and pull out a line here, a line there. It's been done. People have done this. It'll come as a surprise. There are some people who don't like me. I'm really surprised because I'm such a likable guy. But, so they'll pull out a line over here or a line over there or something they said like this. And, never. There was one guy online who was doing this whole attack on me. And my good friend and neighbor, Yitzi Shapiro, decided to engage. And he went after the guy. I don't know, because it's a rabbit hole that you'll never come out of. There was one guy who was attacking me, and I would write these emails, and he'd write longer emails, and I would write emails back. And my wife was like, why are you wasting your time? I said, I want to see if I can get through to this guy. And at the end, he was masking with me. And then on his website, he wrote this whole blistering attack against me. So we had never had a conversation. But he went after this guy, and he just kept going and going, So he says, you're taking things that he said out of context. You're taking, this line and that line. The guy says, it's called fisking. Like, if you give something a fancy term, suddenly we don't call it like being mavayish somebody and, saying motzi shemra and ripping them apart. And, it's so interesting. The Chavetz Chaim, right at the beginning of Sefer Chavetz Chaim, he talks about, how Shimon goes over to Reuven and says, Levi said this about you. So he goes over to Levi and he says, you said the following? He says, no, I never said that. So he goes back to Shimon. He says, why are you lying to me? He says, no, he did say it. Let's go and confront him together. And they go and they said to Levi, you said this. I heard you say this. That's not what I said. I didn't say it like that. You changed the whole inflection. You changed everything. So Reuben says, oh, you're lying to me? Forget it. Because context matters. Yeah. I think it still exists. There was a TV show called Jeopardy, which was a famous thing, but they give you the answer and then you have to give the question. The answer has to be in the form of a question. Okay. So they had celebrity Jeopardy, and there was this comedian, Robert Klein, who was on. The answer was the first president of the United States. So he beeps in and he says, George Washington. So he says, it has to be in the form of a question. So he goes, George Washington? The inflection, there's an old joke like that. Goes, you stole a chicken. I stole a chicken? Look, he admits it. So, of course, context counts, inflection counts, all these things do. There's a Rebbe Chanan that says, how could a Kodesh Baruch Hu tell Moshe Rabbeinu what Miriam said? Isn't that Lashon Hara? And we know a Kodesh Baruch Hu keeps the Torah, right? Gemara and Shabbos. Right? Tanis Rufus, I think it is, asks Rabbi Akiva, how can Hashem make it rain? He's moving from one rishus to another. He's carrying on Shabbos. He says, no, to Hashem ha'aretz loya, it's all one rishus for him. We didn't have different rishus. He didn't just say, listen, he's God and he can do whatever he wants. Obviously, God chooses to play by the rules. So how could he speak Lashon Hara? And says Rabbi Chanan, because Lashon Hara is mutter. It's fascinating because he was a Talmud of the Chavetz Chaim. Lashon Hara is mutter. If you say something true, it's just you can never say anything true. You always color it. You know? I was probably on a plane once and they were showing a Seinfeld and it had subtitles. That's how I happen to know it. Otherwise, of course, I've never watched these things. But George got spritzed in the eye by a grapefruit. And so his eye was like twitching, you know. So he's like, we're thinking of hiring Patterson for the job. He goes, oh, yeah, he'd be great for the job. He's a hard worker, you know. He says, oh, I understand. But your expression, your inflection. Remember reading the Rishach when he wanted to find out about a shidduch, he would drive down to see the person face to face. So he says, Rebbe, I would call you up. He says, I'll come to you. He says, not a matriach. He says, so I could call you. You could call me. He says, you don't get the same response as when you see somebody. So I always felt that way with the online shiurim we give, you know, the RorOlofsky.com, we sponsor 2 Mesilas Yesharim shiurim and a Daf Yomi shiur. And when people turn on their cameras, it's a whole different experience because it's something dynamic taking place. There are people. When I'm sitting here just looking at a bunch of black screens, you know, I feel like I'm at a Black Lives Matter rally. You know, I just have a bunch of black screens I'm looking at over here. I'm talking to myself. You know, it's less fulfilling. You know, so when you see somebody, so then you can see from their inflection, you can see from their expressions. You know, says the boy comes on time for davening. Yeah. That's different response than yeah. It's the same word, but it's a completely different meaning that went with it if you put it into that context. So there's cameras that are recording us. People are listening in all the time. You never know what's being said. And many politicians have been caught in situations where they said things that they didn't mean, or the way it was said. I was once giving a shiur, and now when I speak on a sensitive topic, I tell people not to record it because I've been burnt. So they give the tape to somebody and they edit out selections. And Rabbi Orlofsky said this, Rabbi Orlofsky said that. Yeah, it's not what I said. You have to put it back into the context. But did you say these words? Yeah, shkayach. You know, like you quote the Aseret Dibros. ... kill. ... steal. That might sound kind of strange, but the person who translated the St. James translation of the Bible into English was actually sentenced to death because he left out a not in the Ten Commandments. I don't know which thou shalt he wrote, but left out the not. Yeah, it makes a big difference. Yeah. So you have to understand that you are always on. You're always being recorded. Somebody's always listening. Everything's written down. I heard Rav Amnon Yitzchak once tell a joke about what it'll be like in Olam Haba. And it's indelicate. I apologize in advance. I'm not trying to be indelicate. But again, I heard this from Rav Amnon Yitzchak, who somebody said to me, he'll probably be Mashiach. Because what are you going to do? Who are you going to get? You have a Sephardi, the Ashkenazim won't accept him. You have an Ashkenazi, the Sephardim won't accept him. You have a Chassid, the Lubavitch won't accept him. So many different barriers. But you have somebody like Amnon Yitzchak, he doesn't fit in any category. So like everybody's like, yeah, okay, I'm okay with him. It's got to be somebody who, I imagine when Mashiach comes, he'll be wearing like a gold robe and a crown. It's like, okay, we don't know what to do with him. So in any event, this guy, he loves baked beans. Unfortunately, it gives him gas, terrible gas. So his wife has forbidden him to eat beans. But he's passing by one of his favorite restaurants and he sees there's a sale, on baked beans. He can't help himself. So he goes in and he has beans and he knows he's going to suffer the consequences of it later, but, not everybody always appreciates the consequences of their actions. Did you ever see somebody, at a Shabbos meal and they bring out dessert and they say something like, I'll hate myself tomorrow? Now, why would you do something that you already recognize is going to fill you with self-loathing? And the answer is because I'm not considering the consequences, So he gets home. He's trying to figure out how he's going to cover it up. And his wife's waiting for him. She says, honey, I have a surprise for you. He says, really? He says, yeah, but I'm going to blindfold you. I don't want you to see the surprise. Okay. It blindfolds him, leads him to the table and sits him in his chair. And he says, I've got something special that I'm serving. Okay. He's sitting there. He hears his wife in the kitchen. And so he, switches position to pass gas, and he waves his napkin to chase it away. Does this over and over and over again, and finally his wife's coming in. So he's with chazek, He says, okay, honey, we'll take off the blindfold now. And it was a surprise party for him, a dinner party, and all of his friends and relatives are sitting around the table. Looks of absolute horror on their faces. And Amnon Yitzchak says, that's what it's going to be like in Olam Haba. You're suddenly going to have to confront everything that you said, everything that you did, all of your actions, because everything was recorded. You didn't realize it was being recorded. If you knew, yeah. It's a scary thing. It's always on, Not one of my best moments, I admit. I've had, I mentioned, I think in the last podcast that, I always had an anger problem. And one thing that would always set me off is injustice. Injustice gets me very upset. When you see somebody taking advantage of somebody else, especially when it's somebody who's a stronger person and a weaker person, it infuriates me. It fills me with a sense of righteous anger. Okay. But the key there is not the righteous, it's the anger, right? Okay. I was mashgiach in yeshiva, and I pull up, and as I'm pulling up, before the cars come to a stop, the yeshiva opens the door and takes me by the hand and says, we have an emergency, come right now. So I come in, and there's a Hanhalam meeting. And there's this kid who's, a little bit of a, I don't like to use the term, but he's not one of the cool kids. We'll use that. Yeah, not one of the cool kids. And, there were some cats that he decided to befriend. guess, because he didn't have a lot of other friends. And it was with the friends, and he would take from the leftovers from the yeshiva, and he would feed the cats and like this. Anyway, there was this real tough kid. If you remember the comic strip of Nancy, he looked like Sluggo, and one of those little caps that he would wear on the side of his head, like this. He was like one of these really mean kids. Anyway, he decides to start torturing this kid. And he tells him, I'm going to kill your cats. He comes in one night. There's a knife in his pillow. And there's a noose hanging over his bed. Says, tomorrow you're going to find one of your cats hanging from this. Anyway, he pushed him. He goes to the kid and he starts confronting him, and the guy opens up shakes up a soda, opens up and spritzes it all over him. And so he pushes the kid, and the kid rips his shirt, and it's like, this is during a Seres Mitzvah. And the kid is showing the shirt, he's showing the stains, he's showing the noose, he's showing the knife, he's showing the note, and Sluggo is watching through the window in the door. And I was seething. There's a general rule in Chinuch. Do not speak when you're upset. Always calm down. Parents feel like they have to say something b'shas ma'aseh. It's not always true. In fact, I used to write a column on Chinuch, and I said, I can sum it up now very short. Don't say 90% of what you want to say. I was boiling. And what I should have said is, let's stop and consider and talk this through. But the Shiva, who was agitated, right? So he sends the kid out, brings the kid right in. And tried to keep my cool. Yeah. And I said, what happened? Well, he was taking food from the yeshiva, and I tried to explain to him that it wasn't right, that you really need reshus from the hanhala before you take it. This whole thing, just made up this whole story. I saw the shirt, I saw the note, I saw the knife, I saw the noose. I go, look at you, liar. How could you sit there and look at me and lie? What are you, a liar? You know that this never happened. You know what happened. Tell us the truth. I was really very upset. He was like, no, you're not telling me the truth. Tell us the truth. So, okay, I did it. I said, find another yeshiva. Find another yeshiva. So he said, where should I go? I said, where should you go? It's a serious tshuva, and you're torturing a poor kid. You're going to go to Gehenna. That's where you're going to go. What do you mean where you're going to go? What do you think the books of life and death are open? What do you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu says when he's looking at you? I was very agitated. Anyway, he leaves the room, and he was laughing because he had a tape recorder hidden, and he recorded the whole thing and played excerpts. That's always the key. He played excerpts. And it was, it was a terrible thing. He eventually left the yeshiva, but the damage that he did to me personally was tremendous. And all I could think about were those words in Pirkei Avos. Da ayin roya, oizen shamas. If I knew I was being recorded, would I have reacted the same way? Probably not. Probably not. But you're always being recorded. The tape recorder is always on. The video camera is always filming. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is writing everything down. Nothing is forgotten. In shicha lefanecha. You have to just always picture that. You have to always picture that the camera is going. The microphone is there. It's right in front of you. What would you like to say? These two boys were writing a telegram, and you pay per word. So they're trying to figure out how they could possibly say it in the least possible words. And the Chavetz Chaim saw this, and he says, if we only appreciated that every time we spoke. What do you need to say? Yeah. Especially if you know that everything you're saying is being recorded. We are very distant from our words today. I want you to think about this. You read some of the classic novels, 1,000 pages. They took a quill, they dipped it in an inkwell, and they wrote until the ink started to go, and then they stopped. And they dipped it in. Is that right? And dipped it in. Page after page. Amazing. Isn't it an amazing accomplishment? I can't even imagine what that would be like. I started school in 1964. We already had ballpoint pens. I think. That didn't matter. I didn't need a pen. I used a pencil. But by the time we were old enough to use pens, they had ballpoint pens. My mother went to school. She had an inkwell. You know, it was an amazing thing. We take it for granted now. But when you had to take the time to sit down and write that down, and then you would edit it and edit it again. They published at one point the Gvuras Hashem by the Maharal, his rough draft. And you can see what he considered putting in and what he took out and what he, Moshe Shapiro referred to it as Mashu Yoter Intimiti. I think I have that word right. Intimate. Something that was a little more special. You get to see the thoughts that went into it, the process that went into it, until you ended up with the finished product. So we have to think, right? There's an old expression, and I'm sorry, I'm sure my fact checkers out there will bring it for me, but the expression is not everything that you think should be said, not everything you say should be written, not everything that's written should be published. Yeah, because people don't always think it through. Is this the best thing to say? Is this the best thing to do? We just speak. And that's the problem today with emails or WhatsApp or texting or anything. Most people don't even have time for capitalization, punctuation. They can't even spell the whole word, GR and the number 8. Yeah. Where and the letter R and the letter U. Okay. People can't even write okay. They just write K. Okay is already an abbreviation. Martin Van Buren was known by the nickname of Old Kennebunkport. Yeah. And he used to shorten it to OK. So they can't even write OK. K. Yeah. Eventually we shortened to K. Yeah. Time, everything becomes short. So people just right away send things off and they don't give a lot of thought to it, unfortunately. And then it comes back, people go through people's tweets. I'm not sure what that is because I've never been on Twitter, but they go through people's tweets and things that the people just wrote as free association years ago, and they dig them out and say, oh, look what he said when he was 17. Let's destroy his life, fire him, and destroy his marriage and do whatever we can to destroy his person because of something stupid he said at 17. Yeah. Hey, okay. So we have to work on our midas hadibur and our sense of awareness. Shavisi Hashem Negdi Dovid. Hashem is always there. Hashem is always watching us, and we should always pay attention. And that's it for this episode. If you want to find out more about the show, go to my website, RabbiOrlofsky.com. You can leave a message. You can leave a comment. You can sponsor an episode. You can send an email. You could do lots of stuff. Yeah. And that's it. Everyone should have a wonderful week. This is Dovid Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.